William Morris, boy.
This pilot from Yakutia couldn't be believed until he showed this video. Flying over the mountains of Yakutia, he saw a strange strike, but upon closer inspection, he was shocked by an infinitely long fence. But even more mysterious is that exactly the same wall is hidden at the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. Not long ago, this wall could be seen on Google Maps, but today cartographers have erased all mentions and photos of this fence. Researchers, divers say that at the base in some places there are strong disruptions resembling explosions, and the height is uneven, becoming lower in some places. But the scariest thing discovered at the base of these walls is broken equipment of unknown civilizations. This pilot from Yakutia could...
Something's definitely up, man. These civilizations beyond the wall, this ain't adding up. This is by Christina Bruno the Moose, 1111. Christina Bruno the Moose, 41. That's giving us this cliff notes on this amazing book. If I was a reader, man, I would definitely be getting this book and read it. And I might start having to become a reader because I got so many good reads I got to read now. The Apocrypha, this. And you can put the pieces together because what did it say in the book of Jubilee or Joshua? It said that Enoch went beyond these lands and got, with the, rode off on the horse of the whirlwind. So it's like, you got the knowledge. My people are destroyed from a lack of knowledge. Hosea 4:6, I believe. So it's like, right. It makes you think, huh? Drop your comments below, man. We're going to go through this list. We're going to get the whole story. So use this time, get you some snacks, get you something cold to drink, kick your feet up, throw a Jack's pizza, throw a pizza in the oven. I hope you got some marinara to dip the crust in like how I get down, and let's lock in, man. This is dark waters for real. We be on these waters for so long, we find a new land.
Think you can survive this chaos? In Sprunky World Online RP, race through wild obstacle courses, dodge crazy traps, grab hidden collectibles, and laugh with friends all the way. Show off your best skin, take on fun mini-games, and see who wipes out first on the rainbow platforms. Every run is fast, funny, and full of surprises. Play now on Playgama.com.
Let me tell you all about it. Chapter 1, Tour Antarctica. The first chapter starts with him telling you his name and his story, a little bit of the background. He starts telling his story on one peaceful night after the surrender of Saratoga. All of these men that were on the boat were there telling stories under the moonlight, and several anecdotes arose after some whiskey to relax them of the anxiety post-war. So the discussion turns to James Cook's voyages and his obsession to cross the Antarctic Circle. Although it wasn't clear who was behind the funding or even why this obsession, then Captain Butler, that was well respected, he also joined in on these stories. And he said that it was possible to cross the Antarctic Circle because there was a passage somewhere within this circle. And this passage was a connector to other worlds. And he had this conversation seriously, without hesitation. He wasn't just telling a story. So William turns to him with another 5 or 6 that were all speechless. They all expected him to say that it was a joke, but he never said it was. He couldn't believe that a captain was literally telling him that beyond the Arctic Circle, there were other worlds. And Butler commented that he knew very well, from good sources, from the highest levels, They were researching and funding voyages to penetrate the harsh climate and barriers in the southern latitudes. And these expeditions were to find possible lands beyond the Antarctic continent. They were in a hurry to carry out these missions. Now, this story was super long and in great detail. He also said that he saw with his own two eyes a map that indicated the coordinates of such passage of the opening. He planned to start his voyage and leave by the end of November. His wife Lucy was not at all happy about it, but this didn't stop him. Now it was time to form a team. He decided to talk to former colleagues, but a lot of them were making up like the most ridiculous excuses not to go.
There's no way I'll leave my loved ones behind. I'm like, y'all all loading up and coming with me. I got sources that's telling me this spot is good. Tell everybody who believes me to meet me here at the end of November. We're gone. I will be loading up everybody. There's no way.
But he couldn't blame them, because the idea of such a trip was not encouraging at all. But two of the men that were there the night that Butler was telling the story, they wanted to come. So he had two on board. And now the most difficult part was to convince Butler to come. He was truly the only one that had the true navigation skills, knowledge and experience on where to go. And he was also an excellent leader. And without him, they had no clue what the coordinates were either. So at this point, it all relied on Butler joining the team.
We need those coordinates. Drop in the comments if you got those coordinates. We need that. What is it called? Summer straits, the summer passes? Man. But I guarantee you show up anywhere near there, you're going to be met with something serious for entertainment purposes only.
For a few weeks, he built up his courage, contacted Butler, and invited him to join the team. And William Morris described Butler's voice as being enthusiastic, but at the same time, he did not say yes right away. It was actually hard to convince him. But Butler initially declines the offer, which Morris doesn't understand. He's like very disappointed. And it was like this for a while. But unexpectedly, on the morning of October 11th, Butler shows up at William Morris's home with a friend of his, James Flint. But Morris had never seen him before. This guy has maps that Morris has never seen before. And he also carried a lot of documents that very few eyes had seen before. So Flint says that he accepts the deal, even if, based on what he believed, this was probably going to be a one-way trip. And this is when William Morris understood that they had to take this trip professionally, like a mission, and the adventure was about to begin. Morris was now totally obsessed with this exploration trip. So he has this big Navy ship, which was kind of old and needed some repairs. So he pours all of his money into fixing up this boat that is in tip-top shape. William Morris was not actually aware of the dangers of this journey, of the best equipment, but he still needed extra money because the repairs on the old Navy ship was above what he expected. But he saw it as an investment, so he pursued. He planned to start his voyage and leave by the end of November. His wife Lucy was not at all happy.
Domino's new s'mores lava cakes are only $6.99 when I mix and match. Which means they're going in my cart, which also means I can stop pretending I like camping when I really just like melty marshmallows. Thanks, Dom. No.
Chapter 2 from the book, The Navigator Across the Ice Wall. So the captain and Morris decide that their journey will start on November 14th. That is the set date. And his mysterious partner, Flint, was also joining the team. And the big Navy boat was also going to be ready before this date, so everything was on track. Those days were filled with anxiety and very little sleep. Lots of readings and lots of meetings with the team happened that week. About the most wonderful. On November 12th, 2 days before the departure date, Flint shows up at Morris's home, and he was accompanied by another man that was even more mysterious than he was. The man was all dressed in black and with a very strange accent. And this guy said that it was urgent that they enter his home immediately. So everybody comes in. He sets it on the table, opens it up, and in between all of this Maria de of paperwork and papers, Flint pulls out an ancient manuscript. And then he begins to recite a part of it. And this is what he read. Then by demand, I subscribe in major importance. Here I desire from our Lord that the doors of knowledge be closed to those who refuse to be part of our glorious path and liberties granted. The text went on for several more lines. And then at the end, poem Regis was recited. But as soon as Flint stops reading, William Morris turns him and says, "It sounds like you're doing some initiation ritual. What's going on?" Flint turns around and says, "Exactly, comrade. Precisely those who did not pass this initiation. We are the marginalized." Morris demanded that Flint explain exactly what was going on. He was getting kind of nervous now. William wanted to know what this all meant and what did it have to do with their voyage. So Flint says, "Look, I'm going to explain it to you a little bit." And he tells Morris that this manuscript belongs to the custodians, or as we call them, also known as the sun gods. And he told him that these sun gods found out about their trip. They found out about the trip because Butler snitched on them. He says the high spheres are aware of everything and they are not happy about this. And this manuscript explains how they will not let leave anyone, even by demand of the lords. Morris is thinking that the situation could not get any worse. Clearly, already hard enough with all the risks of the harsh climate. So with all the natural events that could possibly happen, now they had to keep into consideration these unknown enemies. Who are these custodians? So Finn starts walking around in circles. He doesn't know what to say. And this is when his mysterious friend opens his mouth for the very first time. He starts to say how these custodians are not happy about our trip. The only thing that he was allowed to... He said that it wasn't worth risking our lives, but he had a threatening tone. And this is when William Morris starts to get triggered, and he tells both of them to leave his house immediately. So now Morris wants to speak with Butler and see what the hell is going on. But that day, and for the next day, Butler did not answer. He simply didn't respond to any of the attempts that William made to contact him. So William gathers an emergency team. The situation was so dark and sinister, but that an inner force pushed him to continue. The passage to the other land was becoming even. Chapter 2 from the book, The Navigator Who Crossed the Ice Walls. Chapter 2, The Custodian. Let's find out who these custodians that keep us entrapped in our domed lands are. We left off where William Morris was trying to contact Captain Butler to tell him about his unexpected visit by these strange people. Strange man that had looked at him defiantly, telling them that they needed to cancel this voyage with a threatening tone, and all at the same time while reciting something that sounded like a ritual initiation of some kind. William gathers an emergency team to see how they can continue this voyage. He wanted to give up almost, but an inner force pushed him as a passage to these other lands was getting closer. More real, but also more dangerous. Morris meets with the entire team. Butler was not there, and for weeks no one had heard from him or knew where he was. Morris tells his team about the sequence of events that happened, about the manuscript, about the custodians, about Butler being missing for about 2 weeks. Then a man named Walter said that he actually had heard about the custodians before. He wasn't really sure who they were, but it sounded like a secret organization. The situation was not encouraging. Butler was still missing, didn't show up for weeks, and at this point, the situation was not at all encouraging. With Butler missing, the plan seemed impossible. And also there was this risk with this unknown organization called the Custodians. The plan now was to postpone the trip until they could find Butler. November 14th, when everybody had canceled the trip, someone knocked on William Morris's door. And to his grand surprise, it was Captain Butler. Butler brought provisions, maps, and everything necessary to leave. Then he turns to William Morris as if nothing had happened, like if it was all okay that he had ratted everyone out to these custodians, and said, "Come on, guys, it's time to leave." William repeatedly asked him where he had been, or where he had gone, and wanted to know more about all these strange events that happened in the past 2 days.
What?
Captain Butler looks at him very calmly and says,
What?
"It was to be expected." He said he had to fight for security,
Damn.
but also to protect all of the documentation he had. And the most important of these things was the map. He was hiding the map. He started unfolding this map in his living room, and Morris said it was huge. He kept unfolding, and unfolding.
No.
There was a land he'd never seen before. And that's when Captain Butler gave the order to assemble the team. They had to leave today. He knew the custodians personally, and Butler said, "This story is not what you've been told." He said, "William, the creators of the pyramids, we call the custodians." Butler said that they were really not okay with them crossing the poles at all, and that they found out these things via Flint. At the same time, Flint blamed Butler. So since Flint was the one that betrayed them, he said, "This is why we have to leave today. It cannot be another day." Because they apparently knew everything already, thanks to Flint. So he promised to give more details about this story once they had sailed, but it was fundamental that they leave today. So William Morris hurries to gather the entire team, and on November 14th, they leave the port of Charleston. And they only had a few stops before reaching the areas of frozen south. Butler shouted William Morris's name and told him to immediately come on deck. A passage had just opened behind the giant walls of ice. The happiness that devoured these men was unexplainable. Butler did not hesitate for a second, and right away shot in the direction of the opening. The captain seemed to know what he was doing, driving the boat parallel to the promontory. And then a kind of current took them all the way inside. Without even being able to realize it, they were being dragged by this enormous force now. Fear paralyzed the crew. The ship was brushing its edges all along the two ice walls. The panic of the ice wall brushing the ship lasted 3 or 4 minutes, but they describe it as feeling like it was never ending. Suddenly now they were sailing on this current, and calm seemed to invade their surroundings. Cold, but not overwhelming cold. So right away we have switched climate. The narrow passage was now opening more and more. It was leading them to an open sea. William Morris said to not believe his eyes. He was seeing this, but at the same time couldn't believe it. Behind the ice wall, there was an entire other ocean. The captain shouted, "We made it! We made it!" They all celebrated with surprise and amazement. They were in waters that only few had ever been before, or so they thought at that moment. The dark waters began to clear now. The ice walls were still visible, but they were being lost in the distance. William Morris gathered his team under the command of Captain Butler, who had stunned them all with some seriousness. He was now going to make an important announcement. He was going to tell them about the real history behind the known Earthlands and about humanity and its past. And in that moment, a colossal-sized craft appeared. This massive ship was directly going towards them. The men that were on top, seeing what was going on, ran down shouting, scared, that something gigantic was coming directly towards them. Everyone was panicking, but Butler ordered them to remain calm. And even though he remained calm, he seemed a little bit nervous. Who would be coming towards us in this gigantic craft, he wondered. This gigantic ship reached them. It was a reddish ship, and the more it got closer, the more it was even larger than what they expected. It had a blue flag with a white circle in the middle. Morris could not believe that he had just left the ice walls behind him, and now that he was seeing these people, that they didn't know who they were. This was a force that would stop them. So at this point, they are still in very dark waters. That means that it's very deep. They have an unidentified gigantic ship going straight towards them. Huge, defeating sound.
Hey, you. You're interested in making music on Suno, but you don't know where to start. Spoiler alert, it's our Create tab. So let me give you a tour. It'll be quick, I promise. Create is split into two different tabs, one for prompting and the other for organizing your creations. When you click Create down at the bottom here, two unique generations will show up in your workspace on the right, where you can then listen, export, or even remix them. It's important to note that filling out all these windows isn't required. It's simply about giving you the options to get as granular as you'd like with your creations. On desktop, if you need some help writing lyrics or creating a unique style, you can click this magic wand. This will help flush out your prompts and lyrics into full songs and in-depth musical descriptions. And if you want to learn more Suno 101, leave a comment below on what you want explained next. See you around.
Blast into the air. We are in this new, mysterious, uncharted open ocean, and this gigantic red ship is heading towards them, a size that we have never seen in our lands. The waters were still very deep, and they described how there was this weird climate of both hot and cold at the same time. Once a gigantic ship reached them, they saw that it had a blue flag with a white circle in the middle, a flag that they had never seen before. Reaching sound filled the air. They could hardly stand it. We could describe it as unbearable. It was some kind of a mega horn. Then a voice with a perfect English accent said, "Dear visitors from the walled land, some of our men will come down and approach your boat. Please remain calm." William Morris was very frightened at this news. There was no way for them to escape. They're gigantic. They looked like something out of a fictional tale, he described them. But Butler reassured him that based on his knowledge that everything was going to be okay. He knew that something like this could happen, and he told everyone to stay calm and welcome this visitor in a very kind way. These men were now making their way to Morris's ship. They had white suits. They had several emblems on them that stood out. At this point, they helped these men up, and everyone was shaking hands nicely. One of them introduced themselves as the captain and wanted to know what they were doing in these seas and why they were navigating there. Butler speaks up and explains how they're navigating around the Antarctic Circle, and that a current brought them there to this open sea of theirs. He called it the other side, and that they were there to investigate these other areas. William Morris noticed that Butler and these other men were getting along. Their captain turned to the other two men with him, and he looked amazed. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. People from the other side of the ice wall had just penetrated him and gone beyond. They all looked at each other and commented between them that it had been a very, very long time since anything like this had happened. And their captain says to Butler that they were very, very sorry that their visit seemed to be unwelcome. It was super important to follow rigorously the directions that the other captain had given them. The men wanted to know if now Captain Butler was finally going to tell them the things that he had promised he was going to tell them. But Butler hesitated again and said, "Not yet." It was almost as if he had changed his mind to inform the men of what he knew. Butler mentioned that after meeting these people, now things had changed. Maybe his perspective, his view had changed. He was very happy that they ran into these people and now that they could safely travel to the Ancestral Republic. He said that it would have not been the same if another boat had found them first. He said, "Let us remember that these are very powerful people that we left behind. Very powerful people that did not want us sailing these waters." For knowing all of this at all, he said, "Let's wait until we get to the Ancestral Republic, and then maybe we will be able to explain things better." They all wanted to know more about the situation. Butler said, "Although we have already crossed the ice walls, the journey has just begun. It's time to understand that we are in a war zone." The last sentence left the men speechless. War zone? What do you mean? What war zone is this? And Butler gives him a brief response. "Everything will become more clear as soon as we anchor." Changed quite a bit the farther they got away from the ice walls. The climate becomes temperate, indicating that they were arriving to these lands. And birds of various types began to be spotted the closer they got there. He had the feeling that they were making history. Next episode, Chapter 5, The Great Reset. The Great Human Reset. Are you ready to find out what the Great Reset's all about? Chapter 5 of the book, The Navigator Across the Ice Walls. The Human Reset. Destination, the Ancestral Republic. The team was now in voyage to the Ancestral Republic, following the directions of the captain from the Ancestral Republic Navy ship that stopped them. The night was very clear, and the sailors could see from a distance. The group was stupefied by the beauty of this giant and silent city. They describe it as like looking at an electrical city from the book of Thomas Brown. They were eager to arrive and not remain on the boat anymore because they were very uneasy about what the other captain had told them about there being a war zone, that they might not be safe. So the priority right now was to get to land, to get to the Ancestral Republic. So they're at the port of what looks like a large and modern city. And not even a couple of minutes go by that more agents dressed just like the other guys on the ship arrived to welcome them, and they were greeted. The head agent said, "Welcome to the Ancestral Republic."
Can you identify which app is a trap?
Your payment info is with me.
Same days. Some wonder we're having.
You may not be able to tell which app is a trap, but Google Play can. Download apps, not traps.
The 2027 Can-Am Maverick X3. It's turbocharged Rotax performance. Tested at Travis Pastrana. Unstoppable. Can-Am.
Republic. We are very happy of your visit to our lands. It's almost unthinkable. We were advised of your arrival, but we really didn't believe it until we saw you guys. Captain Butler thanks them on behalf of the entire boat and then introduces William Morris as the owner of the ship. William Morris said that it was an honor to be there. The entire team was still dumbfounded because they couldn't believe that beyond the Antarctic ice wall, that there were other cultures, that there were other lands. It was just impossible to set in. And they had so many questions. But the agent told them that right now it was urgent for them to go meet the president. Now Morris is describing a vehicle that they took to go meet this president that they had never seen before. The system of illumination was these electrical lanterns There were no noises of horses or carriages. It was a very silent city, whimsical to say the least. They are describing the clothes that the other people are wearing and very colorful and totally different. And they also had these luminous devices that they were holding that would show images and voices. I think they're describing cell phones or little portable computers. And remember, this is after the Revolutionary War, so these guys had never seen this technology. It would be like someone from the past visiting us today. They finally arrived to this immense building, and each room was connected to the other. William Morris decides to touch the wall while he's going from room to room, and he said that it was cold like marble. But then there are some stairs, he becomes dizzy. Then they finally arrive to a room with all of these different chairs and seating, and the agent tells him to wait there. And Morris says that he could have waited there forever because the comfort of these seats was something that he had never experienced before. After a while, a man with a mustache comes out and addresses Morris and says, "Are you William Morris from the United States of America?" And Morris says, "Yes." And the man says, "My name is Faed. I am so sorry you have arrived at these times that we are going through now. If you had come at any other time, the situation would have been so much better and